Hey everybody, it's Kevin here from Happy Beard Games. You know, I really love video games, but there's something else I like just as much as video games, and that is Star Wars. Yeah, that's right, Star Wars. Developed by LucasArts and Factor 5 and published in 1996 for the PC, Mac, and PlayStation 1, we have Star Wars Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire, a sequel to Star Wars Rebel Assault, which was released on the PC, Mac, 3DO, and Sega CD. This is an on-rails shooter featuring FMV graphics, that's right, full motion video graphics, with live action actors. Let's review this game today on Happy Beard Games. Today we are looking at a game on the original PlayStation console, a game called Star Wars Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire. The gameplay is starfighter ship battles and character blaster gunfights, which both control very similarly. There's also a couple of racing style levels, which the main objective is to dodge obstacles. Rebel Assault 2 takes a different approach to game graphics than you might be used to. Most of the game is done with pre-rendered CGI animations along with real human actors on a set or a green screen. You may be wondering, how does this work with the gameplay? Well, you are always on a set path in game. You are on rails and can only move around in the small box that is the frame of the screen. There are also more complex levels in which you will shoot a group of stormtroopers or shoot at a specific target in a space station, and that will trigger the next event, which loads more video for the game to transition into. The ships and speeders that you pilot in the game, as well as the enemies, are 3D rendered, which means they are on a more PS1 level of quality and stand out a bit. The game's 3D graphics tend to look sharper, while the FMV graphics are a bit blurrier. A good part of this FMV graphic style is that the game's art is consistent. The game looks visually the same at all times because it is pre-rendered. The live action actors add a sense of realism as if you were playing one of the Star Wars movies. And that's one of the big draws of Rebel Assault 2, is that it's a game that makes you feel like you're in control of one of the Star Wars films. But as we will see, this game's story, the actors acting, and most importantly the gameplay itself, is lacking. A lot of the gameplay is shooting targets. Once again, you're on rails and either moving forward continuously or stopping and going after waves of enemies. In a majority of the game's levels, you point and shoot fast-moving and repeating targets either from the cockpit of a ship or the control of your Rebel Alliance character named Rookie 1.
Rookie 1, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good.
The gameplay is fast, so you will be moving the D-pad and pressing buttons repeatedly. It's honestly a little hard on the hands. As this was an early PS1 game, the game supports the DualShock controller but not fully, so whether or not your PS1 controller has thumbsticks, you will not be able to use them in this game. The lack of thumbsticks adds a couple of problems. You have a slower and less accurate aim with just the standard directional pad. It also starts to feel uncomfortable on your thumb even after a short time due to the constant fast aiming movements. Unlike most games, the aiming cursor doesn't reset to the center of the screen while aiming, which feels off somehow. The rest of the controls are simple. You have X to shoot, L and R to roll to the left or right in ship levels, and square to cover and dodge on the on-foot levels. There's a pause menu and options for inverting directional controls. You can also switch the game's viewpoint from outer behind the ship camera to a first-person cockpit view. In most levels with this option, I found it easier in first person, but that's just me. The game has an odd save feature and requires a memory card to save. The save feature works where you can save or load at any time from the in-game pause menu. There's also an autosave feature, but I never used it as it was hidden away in the options menu, only accessible from the game's title screen. You earn points and a score in this game. A high enough score can grant you an extra life. There's a high score leaderboard as well. It's notable that this is a 2-disc game, although it only took me a little over 2 hours to fully complete, so it's rather short. The FMV video takes up a lot of space on the PlayStation discs. As I mentioned earlier, there are a few levels that play more like a racing game. In these levels, you are essentially dodging oncoming patterns in the background's graphics. It's a nice change of pace and gameplay from blasting TIE fighters and stormtroopers. The ship and on-foot levels are visually different, but the gameplay is more or less the same. The on-foot levels tend to have more story scenes involved. The music in this game is taken entirely from the movies, so you get that great iconic John Williams sound, but it does lose the originality of this game. However, on the PS1 it's CD based of course, so the sound quality is much better than most Star Wars games that came before this. The sound effects such as blasters and ship effects are all great and sound appropriate. Of course this game has voice acting even during the ship levels, and the voice actor for Darth Vader is a really good substitute.
Very well, Admiral. Engage the rebels.
It might just be my game, but on some of the later levels, the background music would glitch out and play the whole track on a fast speed, and then be silent for the remainder of the level. Weird. Due to the pre-rendered graphics and live-action actors, a lot of it really does look like a slightly low-budget Star Wars setting. There's a lot of great costumes that all look just as good as in the movies. The actors are good for what this is, but I couldn't see most of the game's actors in a movie like Force Awakens, for example. There's a certain level of cheese feeling in the acting. It's not really that bad though. Only a small handful of Star Wars characters return in this game, including Darth Vader, Admiral Akbar, and Emperor Palpatine. One interesting design choice was that for most scenes with these returning characters, they actually used footage from the existing Star Wars films, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. They took out the dialogue and edited them into the game scene with new lines. According to an official Lucasfilm magazine, this game was the first Star Wars live-action title since Return of the Jedi, though I think they counted out the 2 Ewok films. Although the game has a 2 in its title, you can enjoy it fully without playing the first one. The story of the game takes place in the Star Wars Legends timeline, set between Star Wars Episodes 4, A New Hope, and 5, The Empire Strikes Back. The plot of this game is about the Galactic Empire's new cloaked ships. This is where the game's title, The Hidden Empire, comes from. These ships with a cloaking device rendering them invisible have been attacking the unsuspecting Star Wars heroes of the Rebel Alliance. During the early levels of gameplay, your character, a rebel pilot named Rookie 1, is attacked by these cloaked TIE fighter ships while investigating an emergency call from another ship attacked by Imperials. He crashes onto a planet, sneaks onto an Imperial base, and captures a ship to escape. The ship he escapes on happens to look a lot like the Millennium Falcon, but it's not, it's just the same ship model type. As this ship is featured on the game's box art, it can be misleading as Han Solo and Chewbacca are not in this game. Upon regrouping with the Rebel fleet, they set out to investigate and find the Imperial complex that is building these cloaked ships. They fly through an asteroid field and then attack an Imperial station. Their victory is cut short as the new cloaked TIEs come in and destroy most of that squadron. You go back to the fleet with the new information about the cloaked TIE fighters. Rookie 1 volunteers to go on a mission to meet with another rebel on a planet called Imdar occupied by the Imperials. Before he can go on his mission, Rookie 1 must learn how to pilot a captured basic TIE fighter. There's a canyon level where you have to survive not scratching and damaging your TIE fighter. This ends the first half of the game and you put in Disc 2. Rookie 1 pilots a Y-Wing on a mission to the planet Imdar. There's a tough ambush by many TIE fighters, but you survive, and then go through another asteroid field where you have to take out turrets mounted on the rocks. Upon arriving on Imdar, you meet up with Rue Marlene, a rebel stationed there to keep an eye out for Imperial activity. You both hop on speeder bikes in a race level to the Imperial base. The two sneak on board an Imperial transport ship and put on Stormtrooper armor. Similarly to the original Star Wars movie, the two disguised as Stormtroopers sneak around the Imperial Star Destroyer looking for the cloaked TIE fighters. There's an interesting level where they have to hide in the sewers, and you get a first-person lookout of a Stormtrooper helmet complete with the HUD. They eventually find the hangar of TIEs and steal one. There's an escape stage and they manage to destroy the Star Destroyer that they were on. They're again attacked by a final wave of TIE fighters. Then they see the real factory station, which was also cloaked. They turn around and pilot the stolen TIE into the station and destroy it from the inside out. Then they return to the Rebel base with the captured TIE fighter and have a victory.
Well, kid, I didn't think you had it in you.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like the Alliance owes you a debt of gratitude. Without the advantage of their Phantom fleet, the Empire will have to face us on equal ground. Once again, you've saved us all.
They will use this TIE to find out about the Empire's cloaking technology. But wait, there's a post-credit scene showing Vader escaping in his own TIE fighter. Back on the Rebel base, Rookie 1 and Rue Marlene are talking when, in the background, the capture tie explodes, leaving the Rebels with no info on the cloaking technology. The problem with this game's story is that it didn't really need to be told. It doesn't affect the movies, of course, and by having the Empire create and then lose all the cloaking technology in this side story, makes it feel condensed and unnecessary. It's a fun adventure, but it doesn't do too much to the overall Star Wars Legends lore. This game is a fairly basic game for Star Wars. Its ship combat is nowhere near as deep as TIE Fighter and X-Wing games, or even the Rogue Squadron series. The difficulty is fairly easy, and the game is linear. You play level after level, continuing one story. The characters are lacking. We don't really get to know much about Rookie 1 except that he's a skilled Rebel pilot. The game doesn't try to do anything risky or innovative aside from the graphics being full motion and with real actors. The gameplay is very arcadey and repetitive. Even for an on-rail shooter, some levels tend to drag out. The story, while it has its cloaking device theme, is more or less borrowing from Star Wars A New Hope. The cloaking device station is basically like a Death Star. There is a sneaking on board scene disguised as stormtroopers. The rebels fly inside the station, blow it up, and save the day. There's even a couple asteroid field levels for Empire Strikes Back fans, and a canyon level based around Luke's Beggar's Canyon on Tatooine. Overall, Rebel Assault 2 is a basic on-rail shooter set in the Star Wars universe. It has a simple story and characters, but offers an interesting visual side, which makes the Rebel Assault games unique in the Star Wars series of games. I would recommend this only to fans of Star Wars and maybe to those who enjoy on-rail shooters, though the controls are pretty hard. I would not recommend it to fans of TIE Fighter, X-Wing, or the Rogue Squadron Star Wars games, as those fans would probably feel that this one's arcade style is severely lacking. Alright, that's about it for Star Wars Rebel Assault 2 on the PlayStation. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.